Welcome to the Escape the System channel. I'm Joe Barnes and I'm back with another video. Got an interview today with influencer who is a plant-based health advocate, Jeff Boadi. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Been a long time coming, this one, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Now, Jeff has a big following on Instagram with over 100,000 followers, also a big following on Twitter with 30,000 followers. He is an influencer in the health space. I will leave the links to his Twitter and Instagram accounts so you can follow those in the notes below. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the products Jeff has on offer at the end of the interview as well. I just wanted to know, obviously you're now successful with as a health advocate and influencer, but before that, what were you doing? What was your background?
So it's interesting because I've kind of had quite an interesting career path. So when I came out of school, I went abroad to try and play professional football. Like, football was my first love, and did that for, I'd say, maybe around sort of 8 years. Went away to Norway, America. Where else did I go? Norway, America, Austria as well in 2015. And then started to get a little bit disillusioned with the game as I wasn't really getting to the level that I wanted to get to. And of course, football is very much about connections and who you know. But I have no regrets. So around about sort of 2017, 2018, I kind of wanted to move forward into a different kind of sphere. But I had nowhere to start because football had been my entire life. So I kind of did a few jobs sort of here and there. And then I came across a health and wellness magazine called The Stylist. And I started writing like free features articles for them, all about health. It was about mainly focused on women's health, actually, which is quite interesting. And that really gave me the bug to want to kind of just really dive deep into kind of understanding health. And it was around about the time just after sort of August 2017 when I'd gone fully plant-based. And I was really doing a lot of research into it and how to optimize it for my health. How to, obviously, I still wanted to, I still trained in the gym, still, wanted to keep myself fit, healthy, strong, mobile, etc., etc. So my idea was to do as much research around it to make sure that I could still maintain those elements of my health. I still wanted to be fit, still wanted to lift heavy in the gym, all these types of things. So I catered my plant-based diet towards that. Performance was really the kind of forefront. And as I said, then started writing for this magazine, and then really, as I said, started to get the bug for sharing a lot of the recipes and the information and the education around plant-based nutrition on my Instagram page. And I said sort of around sort of 2020, 2021, it kind of really started to pick up. People were really kind of, gaining some interest in it, in what I was saying. And I was trying to come from a place of not kind of bullying people to go plant-based because, as we're going to discuss a bit later on, you get these militant vegans who try and really kind of shoehorn people, you've got to go plant-based. But I don't think that's the best way to operate. I don't think that's the best way to do things. I like to present the information, also be an example and try and look as healthy as I can myself, give the information to people, share some interesting recipes, provide some real depth into what I'm talking about, don't kind of be in a dogmatic space. And I think that's been the best way for me to, convey my views and what I've been learning across. So yeah, that's kind of where we are now. And I think, as I said, the social media has grown a lot, and I've got an ebook, which I released last year, and some future projects, which I'm hoping to be working on in the coming years. So yeah, it's really been an interesting journey of wanting to almost just be like a figurehead in that space of plant-based nutrition and how to do it well and healthily.
Yeah, though, that's interesting. I had no idea about the football.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, obviously, I play a lot of tennis. I know you
Yes.
play a little bit of tennis as well.
Yeah,
I think you said your brother's a coach, but I
he
didn't
is.
know about
Yeah.
football. So that's great. And I think I remember reading it was the What the Health documentary,
Yeah. That was
2016. It was kind of your sort of turning point moment when you decided to make the shift
that
to.
was the one. That was the documentary. So it kind of, as I said, came out of nowhere, really. My sister had mentioned that documentary to me, which kind of showed some of the links between diet and disease. And I was quite interested in it. And I thought, okay, let me give it a watch. And then it really kind of did shift my perspective in many ways. And of course, I think, a lot of these nutrition documentaries are very biased. They're probably not, thinking back, and they're not really done all that well. But when I watched it, and of course, there were a few claims in there that I think were, ridiculous. Like there's one claim that says eating one egg is the same as smoking 5 cigarettes, which is just complete nonsense. But what I did actually was, okay, I used that and I did shift overnight, but I went into a mode of wanting to learn about it, diving into scientific research, finding some of the top doctors unbiased people in the space as well who really wanted to give kind of objective information free from bias. And I was just using that to kind of guide my own path and build my own kind of knowledge base into how I feel plant-based nutrition can be done really well. So it's interesting because I guess I always say now, maybe to people, it might not be the best option to make a dietary change based off a documentary. But if you are someone who wants to go down that road and do a ton of research, it might be worthwhile. So yeah, it's worthwhile if you're going to look at those, get into these documentaries, do your research yourself, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think I watched that one as well, and it was powerful. And
Yeah.
okay, I didn't change to a vegan diet, but I did start to make small changes. Got rid of milk, have oats now. I've got a little vegan lunch I make for myself, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, and a few other things as well.
Yeah.
Those are quite easy. I'm sure it's a lot harder to make the full transition. In fact, actually, that was something I wanted to ask you. What is for somebody watching this, looking to make the transition to a vegan diet, what do you say is the most difficult thing to do, and how can they make that transition a little more comfortable and easier?
I think, understandably, so many of us have kind of had these habits that we've had for so many years. So, even growing up myself, like, eating tons of meat, eggs, fish, all these types of things growing up in a Ghanaian household, it was just meat galore. So, of course, it was, on the surface, I guess it seems quite difficult. Like, I mean, and for many people it is. You're kind of turning a lot of these habits on their head and trying something completely new that you're not aware of. So I think there has to be a real understanding as to why you want to do it. First of all, what is the reason? If particularly from a health standpoint, do you want to live a longer life? Do you want to be able to perform in the gym? Then that will actually shape the research that you're then going to do. So you're then going to, whether it's a Google search, plant-based nutrition for athletes, you'll find so many different recipes that will cater towards your aim and what your goal is. And I think one of the biggest keys as well is making sure that you stay with whole foods. Getting a handful of recipes under your belt. It doesn't need to be any more than 3 or 4 at the very start. Get comfortable with those and kind of dot them in and around your week. So, if it's like an oatmeal recipe, get that into a couple of mornings, maybe a simple lunch like a lentil bolognese or something like that. And then once you get used to those, then you might actually start to feel comfortable and branch out into more recipes further down the line, and even tweak some of the ones that you already have as existing recipes, and then make them into something new. So yeah, I think it's finding that reason why and getting really clear as to what your goal is and what your aim is, particularly from a health standpoint, will allow you to do the necessary research, find the right searches to find the right foods that you can get into your diet. And also, I think cooking as well is that's probably one of the biggest things as well. It's not really lifestyle that caters to convenience. So making sure that you're get comfortable in the kitchen. I wasn't someone who was comfortable in the kitchen at all, but I'm someone who really enjoys cooking now. But it was a process of trial and error. And you have to try certain things, see which foods make you feel good, see which food you like, explore, and then you're able to go from there. So yeah, I think those are the things that I would suggest.
Cool. The good suggestion. So you're talking about getting 1 or 2 meals under your belt. So if you were to say what your number 1 meal is, or I guess you're known for the oats. When I look at your Instagram page, there's a lot of colorful oats that you consume. Would it be that, or would it be something else you'd say is your signature meal?
I'd probably say it's the oats, because it's something that I pretty much eat 95% of the time in the mornings. Sometimes I might have a smoothie, sometimes I might have like an organic tofu scramble. But what I like about oats is that it's a blank canvas. It's essentially, you can do whatever you want with it. So typically what I would do is cook it on the hob, add a banana, add some cinnamon, add some pea and brown rice protein powder, or pea and hemp protein powder. And then you can just do the topping. So I'll typically go for like raspberries, blueberries, maybe walnuts and hemp seeds. And I just really enjoy that. I really enjoy that. I know that I'm getting a wide variety of nutrition there, mineral rich, and obviously with the different toppings, I can get, essential fatty acids, and different minerals as well that way. So, and it's easy, it's quick, and you've got the overnight oats version as well, which is even quicker. You can make that 5 minutes the night before and then have that in the morning. And yeah, it's just a really easy and simple way, and you can cater it to exactly what you want. So I'd say that oats is probably the one that I'm probably most known for. Yeah.
Cool. And you've got that free oats ebook, so I'll leave the link for that. Okay, then, Jeff. So I want you to rate my vegan meal.
Go
Okay,
for it.
rate it out of 10, and you can be as on it as
Yeah.
much as you want. So it's lunch. It's a lunchtime dish. A
Mhm.
bit of olive oil in the
Okay.
pan, and then
Mhm.
I'm stir frying broccoli, baby sweet corns, cashew nuts. Then I whack some wholemeal rice in there, a bit of soy sauce, and that's my lunch.
Nice. That's not too bad. I'd give that a 7. What I would say is, if you get a source of like a decent source of protein in there, even if it's like beans or tempeh or chickpeas or something like that, that will really round it off from a nutritional standpoint. So that will give you a bit of extra bulk. You won't feel as maybe as hungry after 2 or 3 hours, and that could elevate it. But I like it. It's nice and simple. Get
Yeah,
the job
really
done quickly.
make it in 5 or 6 minutes. So I
Yeah,
don't get the protein from the cashew nuts then.
you probably won't be getting as much protein from cashew nuts as you probably need to eat quite a lot of cashew nuts to get any
All
decent
right.
amount of protein, but that would push the calories way higher than you want to. So you'd want something like not cashews, chickpeas, kidney beans, maybe tempeh or tofu if you eat those foods. And they all really kind of give you a decent amount of protein there.
Okay, cool. I'm going to try it then.
Yeah,
I'll
let
let
me know
you
how you get on.
know. So, last sort of question about sort of becoming a vegan and switching to that diet. Were you driven more by animal welfare, or were you driven more by just personal health?
It was health, definitely health. And that's not to say that I was unhealthy beforehand, because I thought with the limited knowledge that I have, and obviously I had an obsession with protein, as many people do in society. I had a typical diet that you'd eat, when training in the gym. So a lot of sweet potato, broccoli, brown rice, kind of a lot of lean meats. I did eat my oats in the morning. I just didn't really have much diversity in my diet, whilst I was kind of eating animal based. So I think I kind of just wanted to see, okay, by the sounds of this documentary, I can really optimize my health. Um, so let me see how I go with it. And after 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I felt incredible. I'm sleeping much better, so much more energy. I felt lighter, I had clarity of thought, clarity of mind. And then I realized, and it was just a continuous journey. Obviously, then you've got to look at, okay, which nutrients do I need to focus on? Which ones do I need to potentially supplement, i.e. B12, and omega DHA and EPA, sort of fatty acids. And yeah, I felt like my health, not as I said, not that it was in a bad place, was I just felt like I got a much deeper knowledge of health overall. Now I could have gone from a place of eating loads of meat to reducing it drastically, and I still think I would have been very, very healthy. I think I have other healthy lifestyle practices, good sleep. I train a lot. I'm, manage stress quite well. I don't really let many things kind of get to me. So yeah, it was definitely from the health standpoint. But then of course you start to notice some of the other elements, the environmental standpoint, the animal welfare and things like that. But my main entry point definitely was health. And I think for most people, of course, many people go into it for animal welfare, but I think, people see humans are visual creatures. So if they see someone who's on a different diet and they look healthy, they look well, they speak about it in a certain way, they're maybe not so dogmatic. I feel that that's quite interesting to a lot of people, regardless of whether they're vegan or not. I have plenty of people in my community who aren't vegan, and I'm not trying to convert them to be vegan,
Yeah.
because I think there's so many different ways to do health. But I think the way that I do it, and I try and get it across, that if you want to go down this road of eating plant-based, here's how you can do it from a really health-focused standpoint. So yeah, it was definitely from a health perspective that I came into it.
I'm wondering, do you get any backlash from militant vegans?
Sometimes actually, it's quite interesting because if every time I see some of their tweets on Twitter, and I don't really understand it, and I don't think that makes sense, I'll kind of provide a retort. I think there was one the other day, I can't remember what it was. I mean, I've had in the past where people have said, eating unhealthy vegan food like Beyond Meat burgers is still better than eating wild caught salmon, and I'm just like, come on, let's not be stupid here. Wild caught salmon has nutrients, DHA, it's got B vitamins, zinc. Impossible Burger has a ton of sodium and it's just not really healthy for you when overconsumed. And there's this belief that just because it's vegan, it's automatically better, it's healthier. So I think sometimes a lot of militant vegans also say, "Oh, well, you're plant based, you're not vegan." And I've seen that thrown around, and I've seen that mentioned about a lot of what I do. Now, actually, yes, I prioritize the plant based diet, and that is what I want to promote to people, but where practical and possible, I'll wear vegan leather trainers. I'll wear vegan leather belts. I don't wear suede, anything like that. But that's not my priority. That's not what I'm trying to draw people's interest. I'm trying to draw people's interest to how they can improve their health. And I actually think for the vast majority of people, that's of some interest to them. And then they end up, whether it's getting more plants into their diet or going fully plant-based. So yeah, the militant vegans can be quite interesting. From my perspective, I don't think that it's a very useful position to take, because everyone's kind of compass of morality is somewhat different, and everyone's journey is different. So I'm not going to, castigate someone for eating meat because I used to. That's just hypocritical.
Yeah.
So that's the approach that I take.
And you're probably going to put more people off than you would
Exactly.
attract.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, I agree. So doing a bit of a 180, going from veganism to carnivorism. And before I saw any of your tweets, I've been noticing on YouTube just more and more videos of people talking about the carnivore diet. I think I saw the author Jordan Peterson even on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about how he'd had these huge benefits from switching to a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
So I see this guy called Carnivore MD.
Oh yeah, Paul Saladino.
Costa Rica. He's constantly got his shirt off.
Yeah.
Throwing things all over the place. It's quite interesting. I watch him. I find his videos funny, but
yeah.
I don't really. I'm suspicious of how healthy it is, and obviously, I wanted to get your take on that. I mean, I think part of it is because if you switch to an entirely carnivore diet or mainly carnivore diet, and you supplementing as that Carnivore MD does with some fruit as well, then obviously you're not having any processed sugars, which is going to help immediately. And there's a lot of other crap you're not taking in, which is going to help. So maybe they're mistaking the fact that that's helping them with a long-term diet that's going to sustain their health, because I'm sure anyone who sticks on that diet long-term is not going to be healthy. What's your take on it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I just think in the long term, people are going to run into problems. We're seeing well-established data out there on the benefits of fiber. For example, fiber is only found in plant foods, and the different strains of fiber that you get, benefit the bacteria that's in your gut that produce metabolites such as butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid, which has huge downstream effects in terms of prevention of type 2 diabetes, anti-cancer effects, et cetera, et cetera. And as you say, ultimately, the carnivore diet at its core is just a really radical elimination diet. So is it the fact that you're eating all of this meat, or is it the fact that you've removed the processed sugars, you've removed the inflammatory foods that are causing you problems? And, I can accept and acknowledge that people have had success on it in terms of, elimination of autoimmune conditions or management of autoimmune conditions. I know Jordan Peterson and his daughter, Michaela Peterson, have spoken about this. But what does that look like long term? Because we've seen, if we look at diseases like colon cancer, for example, it's linked to excess consumption of red and processed meat. Now, is a certain influencer promoting this going to be there for you if you unfortunately get diagnosed with, a gut problem such as that? So, we have to be really careful with these people. And, Paul Saladino, he's got his supplement business. He's obviously very financially motivated, people like Sean Baker as well. So, I just think, and the issue with the carnivore approach and what these people kind of, when they're bashing the vegan diet, they look to criticize like the vegan processed meats. They go from one end of the spectrum to the other, and they say, oh, veganism is bad, and then they start reeling off, the refined grains, refined carbohydrates, fake meats. That's not a healthy vegan diet objectively, and anyone can see that. I'm always wanting to look at things from a perspective of eating whole grains, eating legumes, eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and fungi and mushrooms. That's a healthy way to live. That's a healthy way to eat in the long term. That's just seen across the board. So it'll be very interesting to see in sort of 10, 20, 30 years where this carnivore diet goes and how people respond to it, essentially.
I predict the way of many other fad diets, it won't be around. It's just like, what did we used to hear around just after the year 2000 about the Atkins diet? That got popular. I remember I was working in a pub somewhere, and nobody wanted their burgers in a bun. It's just, it is. And what bothers me, apart from the fact, obviously, I don't think it's particularly healthy, is that people are so dumb. They keep falling for gimmicks all the time. Somebody comes up with a gimmick and they're like, oh, this is going to be the answer. This is going to save me. I see it in the personal development world as well, not just diets. Somebody comes out with a faddy course or a new idea for a book, and it's just some of them are just gimmicks. And my message out there to my viewers is, do not fall for gimmicks just because he's got these appealing videos or
Mm.
zany personality or
Yeah.
promoting something really different doesn't, do some research into it, basically.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
just
You have
don't
to. You
just
have to.
be fooled by it.
Yeah, it requires discernment. It's all about, you have to just really analyze what's going on here. Like Carnivore MD, like what is his upset? Saying things like vegetables are toxic is
Mm.
just bemusing. And I think that's very interesting because I was reading a little while back and kind of understanding where they come from that. So they say, oh, vegetables are toxic because they release these defense mechanisms. Now that is true, but in the wild, let's say dark leafy greens or berries, they elicit this phytochemical response, which puts off like insects and pests and protects them from the environment. That's got nothing to do with humans. We're humans, and phytochemicals have been proven to have countless benefits. The phytochemicals in berries have been shown countless times to improve cognitive function. Same with dark leafy greens. So they kind of extrapolate what are called like mechanisms, and you can find a mechanism for anything. You can take one small single ingredient and find like a rat study which shows how bad it is, and then extrapolate that to humans. But first of all, we're humans, and secondly, you don't look at we don't eat single ingredients. We eat the whole foods, and then what's actually more important is looking at long-term health outcomes, human health outcomes, and not what happens to a rat in a lab. So it's very interesting, and it's something that people just need to just be mindful of.
Yeah, it's as you said, let's watch this space, see what's happening in 2 or 3, 3 or 4 years time. Is it still
Yeah.
as popular? I really doubt it. Another thing I find very interesting about your approach is your comments on alcohol, and this is
Mm.
something that is right up my street because I've never been a big drinker. In fact,
Yeah.
I didn't drink at all at university.
Mm.
Just thought everybody was crazy,
Mm.
not just for drinking a little bit of alcohol, but
Mm.
the extent to which they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 nights out of 7, people were getting completely wasted. And
Yeah.
hall of residence I was staying in had a lot of overseas students, and they
Mm.
would say, "What is wrong with you, English people? Can
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you not have fun without alcohol? What's the problem?" And
Yeah.
I was like, I completely agree with you. And yet here I am. I was totally isolated
Mm.
in being the person who didn't drink,
Yeah.
being able to, sort of get that whole culture. So
Mm.
my question to you, because I've been reading some of your tweets recently, is what do you think is a greater threat to society's health, alcohol or recreational drugs?
Without doubt, alcohol. Like it is like without question, alcohol is the most damaging drug in society, and it's not even close. More damaging than heroin, crack, everything. There was a study in 2010 that looked at, I think I posted the other day, you may have seen it, a list of the most dangerous drugs, and alcohol by far and away in terms of harm to the user and harm to others. So if you think about it, people binge drinking a lot. We see it across the country. Binge drinking can lead to, having your stomach pumped and all of these brain issues and all of these types of things. And even just drinking chronically over a period of time, alcoholic fatty liver disease, liver failure, all these types of things. And in terms of how it affects others, it affects your relationships, it affects the people around you, affects the people that you work with. It's one of those. And what I find incredible is that it's just so freely available.
Mm.
It's just so freely available. If I wanted to go and drink myself to death tonight, I can just go to Sainsbury's or wherever, buy a huge bottle of Jack Daniels and just lie here and drink myself to death and then become another statistic. But then you have, for example, substances like psilocybin, which was literally right at the bottom of that list with like a minimal harm to users. And of course, that's probably whether someone's gone through a bad trip or something like that. But that's something that can enhance people's levels of consciousness, take them to a new level of thinking, healing from, traumatic events. So yeah, I think that, and what I find really interesting about alcohol is that when you bring up how damaging and destructive it is, you always have people who defend it.
Mm.
People defend consumption of alcohol, and I'm just like, there's under no circumstances is there anything good about drinking alcohol. There's no safe level of alcohol to drink. Now, people want to defend it because they realize that they need to have fun or whatever, and that's all well and good. But then that's a deeper issue there. What
Mm.
is it that how come you can't connect with a human being without
Yeah.
ingesting substance to take you to a different level? How come you have to drink alcohol every night? Is it, is there something about your life that you don't like? Do you dislike your job? Are you trying to hide from certain feelings? What is it? But again, people in society don't really want to ask themselves the hard questions to lead themselves towards a better life. So, I had someone the other day who was claiming on Twitter that they retweeted my tweet, which I think they now deleted because they probably realized how stupid it was. They called me what is called a pick-me in society. So there's this new thing being called a pick-me where you say something which makes you so where you want to appease to everyone. So that she was like, oh, I hope you get picked. Basically me saying that because I'm saying a minimal level of such a toxic substance is that it leads to a better life. I'm trying to appease to people. And it's completely bemusing. And actually what it shows is that these kinds of people, and they may not want to admit it, they're on the kind of spectrum of being alcoholic. It's as simple as that. Because if you defend such a known toxic central nervous system depressant, carcinogenic substance, then you are an alcoholic. It's as simple as that. You're addicted to that substance. So yeah, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, it's every day, and I'm seeing it every day now. I was in an Uber the other day. I think it was Monday, and you just see people, dining al fresco, bottles of wine, champagne everywhere. I'm like, it's Monday. It's not even Friday. It's Monday. I'm like, and again, it's a deeper rooted issue with society, I think, where people, your book's called Escape the System. People are stuck in a system that they don't really want to be in, but they don't have the kind of determination, the guts, the wherewithal to try and get themselves out of it and create the life that they actually want. So they have to numb themselves to the reality of their situation with substances every single day. But it just creates a vicious cycle because you're stuck in there. So
yeah, I also think a big part of it, Jeff, is, when do people start drinking? Typically around 15, 16, 17, 18, probably under the legal age. I mean, it's not in our country, in England here, for those of you watching from another country, it's not that strictly enforced in terms of minors having alcohol. And a huge amount of it is just peer pressure at that age.
Yes.
It's seen as a way of having fun. Now, I drank my first beer. I thought it was disgusting. How do people drink this? I thought, how am I going to socialize? Because I can't drink more than one. This is disgusting. Wine wasn't that much better. Because I could take them a bit more, but again, the alcohol content's a lot higher there. So I know I'm not alone in having that first drink of beer and thinking this is disgusting. Maybe I'm on the extreme side, but there's got to be 20, 30, 40% of kids who think the same thing.
Definitely.
They force themselves to do it because they want to be part of that group. Absolutely. So alongside all the factors you mentioned, I think that's also a huge thing. And as you said, you brilliantly said it, actually, you've just got to have the strength to create your own life, to break out of that system. If you are, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, watching this and thinking that, that's not, you don't really like alcoholic drinks that much, well, then that is the answer, is just having the strength to break out of the system, that particular system, and create your own life. So I'm glad you brought that up. Next controversial question. You as a health advocate, I want to know who you trust more with your health. Do you trust yourself, or would you trust the government, doctors, pharmaceutical companies, and medical system?
So I think it's, unless you've been living under a rock or you're choosing to not see it, it's very clear that governments, these huge entities, they don't have the health of the population, the true health of the population at heart. Because if they did, they would remove things like alcohol from the shelves. They would remove things like smoking, things which are destroying the health of society. Fast food restaurants, they're just popping up everywhere. They'd have some kind of thing to say about them, but they're not, because, of course, lobbying funds put money in government pockets, and it's all happy days. With my personal health, I think that every single person needs to take responsibility, full responsibility. Of course, in an emergency situation, the Western medical paradigm is the best. If I break my leg, I need to go to a doctor, or I need to be rushed to A&E, I need to have a surgeon. And surgeons are actually amazing. Like, I'll give them, the surgeons are incredible, like, in terms of what they do, putting people back together. Some of the work they do is incredible. But if we're talking about chronic disease, and a lot of the chronic diseases we see in society are owing to poor lifestyle choices, excess, ultra processed food, drinking, excess smoking, lack of movement. This is what's causing the problems. But the issue is that people see these governments and hospitals and doctors, they see them as like the saviors, so they can live the lifestyle whatever they want. If something happens, they're going to save me, right? But you have to save yourself. You have to operate from a preventative mindset. And you just, I mean, for me, it's madness not to. Yes, we are all going to die. None of us make it out of here alive. But I actually want to live my life up until 80, 90, feeling really good, not having to worry about having any aches or pains. I still want to be in the gym. I still want to be traveling. I still want to be, be able to play with my grandkids. These are things that I just think are so, so important. So yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, pharmaceutical companies want to make money. It's as simple as that. So it's in their interest for people to rely on their products. So, and that filters up to government, and that, it's a never-ending cycle of just, not really putting the true health of the population out there. I mean, you've only got to look at the fact that, during the lockdown, gyms were closed and fast food stores were open. That's just in a nutshell, how things really operate. So yeah, it's very clear. Just, you've got to be your own advocate, your own doctor.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And it's just, I think it's also a reflection of a real consumeristic and materialistic society. It's like, I want the easy path, I want to be able to drink as much as I want, have as much fast food as I want, eat as much crappy stuff as I want, and then you're going to fix me, inject me, or give me a gastric band around my stomach, because I'm not going to take responsibility for my health, because that's too hard.
Exactly.
I want the easy solution.
It's always about the easy solution. And what's interesting, because I used to put blame on doctors. I used to always say, doctors just give out pills and this and that. And of course, the medical system in many ways is broken. Of course, doctors don't get much nutrition training at all. And the fact is that nutrition at its core it's responsible for how every cell in our body communicates, really. So I understand that, the system in terms of the curriculum is very, very limited. Doctors don't have the best toolkit to work with. But by the same token, if a patient goes into a doctor's office with a problem, whether it's type 2 diabetes or they're clearly overweight from eating certain foods, or any other lifestyle disease, and the doctor encourages them to make some serious lifestyle change, but the patient refuses, they don't want to, they just want the pill, that's not the doctor's fault. That's on the patient. And then it comes down to, as I mentioned before, being your own doctor and having personal responsibility, which again, people don't want to do because it's not easy. It's not easy to just shift your habits. They just want the easy way out. So there's definitely a case of people needing to take that responsibility, because it's not always on the doctors. Because I know a lot of doctors who want to help, who are very lifestyle focused, and they can't get anything out of their patients, so they're left with no choice.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that as well. It's such a complex issue, and then you have some of the doctors being influenced by pharmaceutical companies as well. So it's so hard to point the finger in any one place. I don't know whether you've heard of the book Empire of Pain. It's a new book. I really recommend it, or anyone watching this as well. It's about the opioid crisis in America. Late 90s through the 2000s, even through into today. A drug called OxyContin, which was basically an opioid. And this pharmaceutical company, Purdue Pharma, is basically influencing a load of doctors, or basically giving them cash to promote this so-called painkiller to all of their patients. You read about this kind of the corruption involved, and also the devastation involved. So from one book onto another, my final question for you, we're going to veer slightly off subject, but as this is a personal development channel, and I know you also have some interest in personal development as well, what is your favorite personal development book, Jeff?
I would say it would have to be The Power of Now, by a long way. And that book completely and utterly changed my life. I read it in 2018 or 2019. I read that book, and it was at a time where, again, I was kind of slowly trying to rebuild my life after, clinging on to football. And what was interesting about my football career is that I always in that period of time when I was trying to, chase it and go here or there, I was always thinking, right, I will be happy once I've got my contract. I will be happy once I've got X amount of thousands per week. But I don't think I enjoyed my life in terms of living in the moment. And that book taught me just to be so conscious, just to really bring myself back to this present moment, because actually the present moment is all we have. And understanding that actually in the present moment right now, are there many problems that we have? There aren't many. And it's a very comprehensive book. It took me quite a while to read. It took me about 3 or 4 months to read it, because I would read a section, my mind would be blown, and I have to kind of put the book down for a little bit and meditate on that, and kind of use what I'd learned in life and see how that was working for me. And I even think in terms of, I've had some, personal tragedy in the last sort of 10 months. I was unfortunately widowed at the end of last year. And I think a lot of the work that I've done with personal development books, such as, The Power of Now, and even another great one, which I really recommend, Sacred Journey of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. It's an incredible book. And just these learnings of understanding about, how to deal with hard times, how to deal with adversity, really allowed me to come out the other end of what I went through. So, and continuing to find purpose in the present moment. And it was honestly such a powerful book. And if anyone hasn't read it, anyone that's listening, you have to go and get a copy of it, because it will change your life.
Great. Well, it's been really interesting talking to you, Jeff. I learned a lot. I hope my viewers have as well. Just to wrap this all up, very briefly, I think I probably mentioned it already, but you can get Jeff's All Things Oats free ebook. He also has an Eat More Plants cookbook. That's for sale on your website. Is that right?
Yeah, that's an ebook as well. Yeah. So if anyone wants to go on my Instagram page, which is just my first and second name, Jeffrey Boadi, the link in my bio has access to a lot of to my ebook Eat More Plants, and my All Things Oats free ebook, which is completely free. And yeah, as I said, social media is where I kind of exhibit a lot of my ideas and my thoughts, and building community there to encourage people to just be more conscious and take control of their health from a plant-based lens.
That's excellent. I'll be putting all those. I'll put all those individual links in the notes as well, so anybody who wants to can further explore. So thanks again, Jeff. Great talking to you, and maybe a few years time we'll do the same again. See what your thoughts are. See how things have progressed.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me. Take care.